Welcome back, everyone. A middle school teacher in San Diego is on administrative leave for allegedly bringing a gun and knife to work. The teacher, 41-year-old Ned Walker, could face felony charges.
In the state of California, it's against the law to bring a firearm to campus, and it's punishable by a felony, which is time in prison. Our Board of Education has stood by the fact that we don't believe that teachers and staff should have guns on campus.
This case has been making headlines in California, where pundits have been speculating that Walker may have brought the weapons to school for his own protection. Walker himself, though, has so far not given a reason why. Our legal panel, defense attorney David Wohl and Fox News legal analyst Bob Massey, they're joining me right now to share their insights on this and their perspective. Gentlemen, let's begin with this. The teacher is not saying why he allegedly brought the weapons to school in the first place, but there is speculation, as I've just discussed, that he may have been motivated to do so upon hearing discussions about arming teachers and other so-called good guys with guns in the aftermath of the Newtown school massacre. Again, that's pure speculation at this point, but could that possibly become a defense strategy? David?
You know, Kelly, I got to tell you something. That cop was right, except for concealed carry permit holders in California who can bring their firearms onto a school campus without exception. So we don't know if that's the case, because if it is the case, despite school policy to the contrary, he is not in violation of state law and should not be prosecuted, Kelly. Now, if he did not have that permit, he may find a defense of necessity. If he felt there was an imminent threat to him or to his children, and he was carrying that gun to protect himself or those children, that may well be a defense in this case. There's no indication of that, but in this post-Newtown era now, some of these teachers are really afraid of the potential for a repeat of that horrible incident, and he may have wanted to make sure his kids were safe instead of being ducks in a shooting gallery. We don't know that yet, but there's a lot that remains to be seen about this, and I don't know about this prosecution at all, Kelly.
Yeah, well, Bob, weigh in on that for me, if you will, from a prosecutorial standpoint.
Well, I see two issues, Kelly. I see, first of all, administratively, should he be fired? Second issue, should he be prosecuted? If he didn't have a CCW permit, from the criminal perspective, let the district attorney make that decision to see if, in fact, as David said, is there some type of imminent threat. From the administrative perspective, if they have a no-tolerance policy in the school district, he should not be exception to that rule. Because the bottom line is, it is not a teacher's choice unilaterally if the school district does not allow it to come in and carry a gun, because the question is, we don't know his state of mind. We don't know how the children will interpret that. And then the problem is, if he's the leader of the class and bringing a gun in, what message does that send? Yeah, They've got to let it to the districts to make it safe.
Exactly. And Bob, well, David, Bob raises a very good point. We don't know his state of the mind. We don't know how students would respond to that. But, gentlemen, we were just talking about it, the CCW law. So let's take a look at California law for concealed carry permits in school zones, just for our viewers. Under the law, concealed carry weapon permit holders are exempt from prosecution under the California Gun-Free School Zones Act. But it stipulates that the gun owner must have written permission of the school district superintendent. Otherwise, the person shall be punished. But is there a gray area here that, David, you're looking at? If this teacher had a valid license to carry a gun in the first place, was he within his right to carry the gun into a school?
Well, the state law does not have that provision regarding written permission from the school. The state law is very clear. If you have the permit, you can carry on campus. If the school policy is in contravention to the state law wins. Now, the problem this teacher has is the knife issue. There is no provision for bringing a knife onto campus. So in that respect, he loses. But I got to say, you know, one of the problems we have in this state is we have 58 counties, all with a different policy of issuing concealed carry permits. Some sheriffs issue them. Our sheriff in Riverside County does a great job to law-abiding citizens. He will issue them when they need them. In San Diego County, where Mr. Walker lives, the sheriff is not so generous and rarely issues concealed carry permits. So he may not have had one. But if he did, he's got a great case, and I expect this case to be thrown out of court in a criminal prosecution.
Well, Bob, I got to bring it back to you, though, because, again, what you talked about, state of mind, what was this gentleman's state of mind as he came into this school with students there, and he's carrying a gun and a knife?
Well, look, we don't know, but we also know this. Assuming that there's a no-tolerance policy, Kelly, he was wrong. He was absolutely wrong. And as a result of that, there should be some type of retaliation, or maybe that's really not discipline, if you will, to the teacher. The other thing, what about disclosure to the parents? If I had a child in that school, and that teacher's bringing in, I want to know, why is he bringing a gun to my child's class without telling anybody? If he'd have gone through protocol, which he didn't, he decided to do this on his own for whatever reason, and that's what concerns me. They say he's a wonderful father. They say he's a good man. How many cases, Kelly, have we covered in the last few years when you hear the people saying, he was a great neighbor, he was a great father, he was a great citizen,
and
went
look
and killed
what happened.
people.
Yeah, and there's no
And
indication.
look what happened.
And no indication at all that this man wasn't a great father and a great person. He has no criminal record. No
Absolutely.
prior
But David and Bob,
history.
David, and I agree with
unfortunately,
that.
I'm running out of time, and we could go on for this, but the
Yeah.
bottom line is it has to be investigated. They have to determine, was this guy
Right.
wrong? And no matter what our opinions are, the legal system will solve it. But keep in mind, gentlemen, as I go, if it was a 5-year-old bringing a toy gun to school, that 5-year-old would
Exactly.
be out of the school. Keep that in mind.
That's the
Yep.
bizarre thing about our laws.
All right.
It's just ridiculous.
David Wohl,
All right,
Bob
Kelly.
Massey. Good to see you guys, by the way. It's been a
Good
long
to see
time.
you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Have a
Take
good
it.
day.
See you, David.
See you, Bob.
See ya. Well, coming up, lawmakers in Virginia saying the so-called Tebow bill is a no-go in their state. It is named for the quarterback who was homeschooled, Tim Tebow, in case you hadn't heard of him. But he actually got to play sports on the local public schools team. Should other homeschooled kids have that same opportunity? A fair and balanced debate straight ahead.
Can you Tebow?
I can Tebow, can you?
Yeah.
Hi, Victor.
Mom?
I know you gotta go in a minute, but this is a real quick meal that's perfect for two. Campbell's Chunky Beef with country vegetables poured over rice.